Okay. Am I making noise?
Yes.
Sweet. I'll turn it back off then. How do I do? There. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I got a text from Rhonda. She's going to try to phone in, but she's in the middle of thin coverage in Iowa. So we may or may not. Oh, there she is. I see her. All right. Are you here, Rhonda? Maybe.
I'm here. I'm working on it.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. There. Okay. All right. Well, I think we've got enough people. It's close enough to 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. And, oh, no, I don't want my computer to restart. Hang on a second. That would be bad. Okay. Crisis averted. Now, let's call this meeting to order. So, start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
There are none.
Okay, so I would consider a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing and hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed, say no. Consent agenda passes. Move on to our COVID update from John Fisher and Heidi Mulcahy.
I can go first. I'm not sure. I don't see John on, so I'll go ahead and get started. We have implemented, I don't know how much information you guys have been given because I haven't been to some of the previous board meetings and I apologize, but we have implemented a pretty strong COVID workflow. We have staff doing health attestations at the sign-in of each day on this, at the sign-in sheets that are posted in each building. We have students arriving at school. They're using the external doors in any situation where they can. If they are wearing the appropriate face mask and they are screened to not have a fever greater than 100.4, not have any current symptoms of COVID-19 or exposures in the last 14 days, then they proceed into the classroom. Students that have an exposure or have current symptoms of COVID-19 are sent directly to our isolation rooms in the offices. And from there, they are, the office staff is completing what we're calling a student tracker form, which we are then giving to the parents. There is a page on this form that the physician can complete. Let me see if I can get my screen to share it so that you guys can see that form. Hang on just a minute. Are you able to see that? I'm hoping that you can.
No, nothing yet.
Tyler, okay to give her permission to share, or is it different?
What was that?
Is that just the present now button in the bottom Barr.
Is it showing now?
There we go. Now you're presenting.
Okay. Yeah, my internet at home is not fabulous, so that could be part of the issue too. So here is the form. It is pending at the top because the Department of Health did release some new guidance today. And so we are in the process of updating this form to reflect that. So currently the symptoms are broken, as of today, the symptoms are broken down into two classes, Class A and Class B. So any student that has a symptom of Class A is going to automatically be sent home. Class B, they actually can have two of those symptoms or one for longer than 24 hours, and they will be sent home. So when they're sent to the office, sorry, I'm getting an echo, and they're placed into the isolation room, the office staff is completing this form, and then they are emailing this form, a copy of it, to myself and to our COVID response team in the district. And then they are also giving this form to the parents, and I'll scroll down so you can see page 2, which it has a second page that can be completed by the physician should they choose to see a physician and be tested. When the COVID response team is notified, we are adding all of these students to logs. We are logging them based on symptoms or exposure, when they go out, and then when they are cleared to come back into the building. And then we're also tracking any tests and test results. And from there, when they're cleared to come back in, they fall off of those lists. And then any test results we get, we're obviously keeping copies of. We currently have, just to give you a little bit of update, we have, since we reopened, we have had 54 staff and students combined that have been out. To break that down a little bit more, we've had 14 staff members and 40 students that we have sent out. We have actually had 11 students tested. So I don't want to overshare information before it's ready, but we are working to try and get some better testing sites in our area, because I think that's part of the reason why our numbers are low for the testing, is just because there's a lack of resource out in our community. So I was trying to think if there was anything else. I think that might be the information that I have. I'll let John share, and then we can maybe do questions if there's specific questions that you guys had regarding the workflow.
That sounds good. Thank you, Heidi. My portion of this COVID response has really been to kind of facilitate the planning of reopening and closing, but especially when it comes to just making sure the buildings are staying disinfected and cleaned and have the supplies that they need. So the logistics and the cleanliness side. And I was told by Ms. Barr that we had some questions about sanitation. So I just want to assure the entire board that we are following all the state's Department of Health recommendations. So we've increased disinfecting practices to high-touch surfaces twice a day now. So that includes anything from faucets to drinking fountains, door handles, crash bars at our entryways, those types of hardware that a lot of people are touching. At the same time, we also know that disinfecting can be dangerous. We don't want to overdo it. We don't want to put extra chemical out there that isn't needed in our classrooms. So a lot of schools have gone to the point of really just, dousing their entire facility down with disinfectant, which is really not wise and is against the recommendations of the Department of Health. And so what we've also gone to is we also know that students should not be using disinfectant in classrooms. So we've provided soap and water mixtures, which kids can handle soap and water. It's completely legal. It's labeled that way. And so during the lunch periods, after the kiddos are done with their lunch, which is the one time during the day that inside the building they can take off their mask, we're having the teachers take and hand them the soap and the water and some paper towels, and they clean off their surfaces in their area. We also recognize that desks aren't being shared. So there's no reason to disinfect constantly throughout the day a desk that one student is utilizing. So again, we're just being very conscientious of our environmental health as well. In addition to the cleaning and the sanitation that we've been implementing, we've made sure that all of our HVAC was running at full capacity. In areas that were able to increase filtration, we did that. And then we also increased our airflow from outside. A few weeks ago when we were going through the smoke, thank goodness we had limited populations of students because we actually had to close that dampers off because the air was so unhealthy outside of our facilities. And when you bring that air in, it dilutes and keeps the virus lower concentrations in the air. So that's why we want the extra airflow. We are not saving in energy at that point, but it's the right thing to do during COVID. So that being said, our custodians are working really hard on that. We're making sure that we have custodial staff constantly at the buildings and the facilities. And we're been working really hard to just make sure the staff feel like they are safe and that we're taking care of them in a healthy manner. So Heidi and I have actually been opening up to a Q&A every Wednesday morning. And so the staff can come on and ask all the questions they have about cleaning, disinfecting, safety protocols. And that's been really well attended. We probably have between 60 to 100 staff members join in every Wednesday morning. And we spend about 45 minutes just answering the questions that they have. And they have some great ideas out there too. So that's been fantastic.
Outstanding. Thank you, John. I'm really happy to hear of our cautious use of the disinfectants. I mean, you know, I've been using those things for decades, and I'm honestly more afraid of most of my disinfectants than I am of the pathogens that they kill. They kill bad stuff, but they are not good for us. So that sounds like you guys are doing a great job, and yeah, thank you for all the hard work from all your people.
We're happy to do it. Thank you guys for the support.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? Okay, then thank you, Heidi. Thank you, John. And but you're not off the hook, John. We'll slide right into your capital facilities plan.
All right, so I'll go ahead and cast my screen on this so you guys can see the document. And for those people that are watching from home, they can see it as well. So just give me just a moment here. Okay, has that appeared on your screen now?
Yep, you're up, John.
Perfect. All right, so this is the 2020 through 2025 capital facilities plan that we have submitted to Pierce County, and we're working on submitting to the town of Eatonville as well. Just a brief piece of information for those at home. A capital facilities plan is really looking at what our district needs for facility space to be able to house the students that we have within our district. And when we looked into this back in, I believe, 2013 was the last time our capital facilities plan had been updated. At that time, the administration, I believe, had decided, you know what, we're going to take a break from this and not collect impact fees. With a capital facilities plan, you have the ability with Pierce County and local jurisdictions such as the town of Eatonville to collect impact fees. So when a new home is built, there is a fee that is charged to the builder, and that builder pays the school district in order to help us mitigate the impact of new children coming into our schools. So right now, under Pierce County, we're collecting about $3,500 per new single-family dwelling that is built in the county within our district borders. Without the capital facilities plan, we are not able to collect those impact fees. And so tonight we're asking the board to adopt this plan. So we'll go ahead and walk through it a little bit. So as you're scrolling through, you'll see the explanation of how a capital facilities plan comes together. We are under the jurisdiction of the Washington State Growth Management Act, and that gives us the ability to go ahead and collect impact fees under that law. In section 2, it talks about what our district would like to see and what our standard of service is. So for example, at the elementary school, our average classroom for elementary school is targeted at 21 students. In middle school, we target 27 students. And at high school, we also target 27 students. Moving further down into section 3, you will see, our capital facilities inventory. So this shows us our square footage, what our capacity is in each of our facilities. At the elementary schools, we have Columbia Crest, for example, with 23,000 square feet. It's 118 permanent capacity. And with portables, we have an additional 17 spaces available. Middle school, we have 441 capacity with 59,000 square feet. And with portables, we add in 83. High school is substantially larger. Permanent capacity is 773. And these are in line with OSPI's expectations for our school district. And so anyways, let's see. Moving on into section 4, talks about our student enrollment and what our projections are. And we take that straight from OSPI. We don't project that for ourselves. Kim could explain more of where that comes from, I'm sure, and explain where that projection is taking place. But as you can see, what OSPI is projecting is in 2020, in a normal year, we expect 1,964 students. And by 2025, we believe that our enrollment will go up to 2,379. What does that mean for us? That means we need some more space. So if you look at the high school, the elementary schools, we already are in deficit by 99 students, occupancy for bodies. And by 2025, we expect to be in a deficit of 377. At our high school level, we actually have extra capacity in all of our spaces. So that is one area that we are not looking for capital facilities impact fees. This plan is a 6-year plan. And as we go through and collect impact fees, we expect that, while we collect them, this won't be the end all, but it will take and mitigate some of the costs that we as a district will have to absorb in order to house these new students. And then if you get down into the bottom, Appendix A, I can't even tell you what any of this means because I don't know how to do numbers like that, which is why we hired a great consultant for that. So I'd like to answer any questions you may have or direct those questions to Kim.
John, may I have you clarify that we are collecting impact fees at this time from the county, correct?
That's correct. So we have been able, starting last year, we started collecting impact fees at the Pierce County within our school district borders. The town of Eatonville has not approved our plan yet, and they have not adopted an ordinance that will allow us to collect fees, but we're working through that process currently. And in fact, we met with them yesterday at the Finance Committee. So I believe we have collected about $54,000 in impact fees at the county level, our plan yet, and they have not adopted an ordinance. Since then, in the last 5 years, we know that the town of Eatonville has come in, and had we been collecting those fees over the last 5 years, at $3,500 is be about $108,000 which could be mitigating some of the space needs that we have currently.
So I just want to clarify, John. So have you gone through this? So the county accepted our proposal, correct?
That's correct.
And so then our next step is to go in front of the city council, the town council.
That's right. And so what tonight? Sorry, go ahead, Preston.
I'm just curious. Have they seen this document, the town?
The town has seen this document, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So what we're asking for tonight is to pass or approve the capital facilities plan, to adopt it, which then gives us the ability to take it to the full council at the town of Eatonville and ask for them to consider an ordinance to collect impact fees.
John, can I ask a couple of questions real quick?
What we're asking for tonight is to pass or approve the capital facilities plan,
Is
to
there a
adopt it,
window that we have,
which then gives us the ability to take
in
it to
that
the full
money
council
timeframe?
at the town of Eatonville and ask.
And then the second question is, this goes into capital projects, so it has to go towards some sort of capital improvement, or does it have to go to specifically identified capital improvement?
Yeah, great question, Rhonda. So we have 10 years to utilize these funds. If we don't utilize those funds within 10 years, we have to send it back to the builder or whoever paid that fee. And these fees can only be utilized to increase our ability to house more students. So for example, you could utilize it for increasing square footage of a building, installing a portable, potentially moving a portable from one facility to another one to mitigate size constraints, renovating a classroom that used to be used for home ec and creating a more of a primary kind of program. There's that, but we can't use it for salary. We can't use it for infrastructure upgrades unless it was in direct effect of increasing capacity of our facilities.
Great, and another question, I guess probably a Kim question. When we get our reports, how will we see this identified as in our capital budget? How will we see how where this is being spent, or how much of it has been spent, and for what purpose?
So it's actually in the capital fund, not the general fund. And there is a separate general ledger account code for impact fees, and there is an identifying marker in all of our account codes to easily be able to identify impact fees and the use thereof. We have not used any of the 72,000 yet. Right now, as we spread out into all of our gym spaces, all of our library spaces, we have had adequate space to accommodate our hybrid structure. But once all of our students come back in, that's where we're really going to be pushed for space.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else to ask or comment on? I know I read it. It looks pretty good to me. So if John, if you're happy, we've got a document ready to go. I'm happy to put that up for a vote at the end of the meeting. Okay, then let's move on and hear a COVID learning update from Jana Rush.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Kim actually invited me. We were having a discussion not too long ago, and I was sharing some of the good news that's coming out of this distance learning that we're all learning how to do this year. I was sharing with her that some of our students that had some significant behavioral challenges and social and emotional challenges in previous school years are doing really, really well with distance learning, taking them away from the environment that is overstimulating and increases their opportunity to have those difficulties is allowing them to be really successful with their academics. And for many of these kids, this is the first time in their life that they've really been successful as academic students. And they're really proud of themselves, and we are really proud of them too. Then on the flip side, there are some students that are really struggling still. And we are able to, and we've been bringing in students over the last, 3 weeks or so, and offering them an opportunity to get some one-on-one help from teachers, or use our internet because they have no capacity for internet at home. We just can't reach them any other way, or they're homeless, or they're just needing some one-on-one support and using the Google tools. And once we're able to give them that one-on-one support with the Google tools, they are being really successful. So it's nice to hear some success stories. It's nice to hear some good things that are going on, when oftentimes all we hear are the challenges that we're facing and our students are facing. So Kim invited me to have me give you an opportunity to hear some good things that are going on.
Well, that is good to hear because, pretty much the majority of what we get today is challenges and problems and what's going sideways. And it's nice to know that there is something beneficial happening for somebody out there. So, that is great. I know I've sat in some of my kids' school days, just kind of sat quietly off to the side, watched and listened, and there's a lot of problems out there. So, but these good things really don't get brought up. So that is outstanding to hear. Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you, Jana. You are free to go should you choose. And so Rhonda and Lisa Rhonda, I'm not sure you're in a position to really give a presentation about DEI, but if you want to, go ahead and give it a try. If not, Creston can speak to that.
I'm going to go ahead and defer to Creston since my internet is kind of sketchy and fill in the blanks if I need to. Thanks.
Okay, sounds good. Then we'll hand it over to Creston.
So Jeff, I'm thinking, is Diane on? I can't see that.
She was on the list a minute ago. Yeah, I forgot. Diane, are you out there?
I'm here, Jeff.
Okay, good. Is that something you feel like you can address for us?
Sure.
Okay, all yours.
Well, we had a meeting with Rhonda and Lisa and Creston and I with Brad Brown and Feliciana. What was her last name, Creston?
Peralta, I believe.
Peralta, right. And they gave us some really great guidance on where to start, who needs to be part of this work, and how to do it well. It's going to be slow, but it's going to be a good process, and how to bring the board on first. And then from there, we'll move into the community piece, the staff piece, probably start with administrators next, and then get the community piece going. So they'll be a great help and a great support for us. Creston, do you want to talk about the plans for the board and the board retreat?
Yeah, so I know Debbie is working on a date that works for the board, as well as doing the initial training. I have requested that Diane work with Kristen around the fact that we already have a policy for parent community advisory. And so formalizing that DEI in that format that would be compliant to the policy would be great. Diane will be progressing and migrating to the district office and covering for me on October 22nd. And so then she will resume that work. We are also looking at opportunities using funding for internal work with staff and principals, so that principals can go forward with some equity, diversity, and inclusion work within their staff as well. So I know that Diane has had an outreach with a couple people, and she will continue to do that. So I really look forward to having her in that position for doing teaching and learning and innovation, helping with remote learning, the educational side technology, and certainly the DEI as we navigate through this year. So thank you. More
Yeah,
to
thank you.
come for sure.
Yes, thank you,
I would
Preston.
just like to, yeah, I would just like to say that the board, I'm really looking forward to a face-to-face, really in-depth work as you navigate as a group of 5 through that work with myself and then with the administrators. It will be powerful work, but it's not just going to be a check off the list, be done. It will certainly be a time where we can come together and be vulnerable and learn and share and become a stronger team. So, Rhonda, I see that you unmuted yourself. Would you like to add?
I just wanted to add that it was really great to meet with Brad and Felicia, but one of the really important takeaways that I had was that it's going to be really vital that as a board we come to a common understanding and common language, because if we want to lead this work forward, we have to really know what we're doing, how we're speaking and what we're speaking about, and how we're leading. So I'm really looking forward to starting with a really great foundation and then moving this work forward to our administrators, staff, and community. And I think this is a great first step.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. Glad we were able to hear you. Okay, anybody have any comments or questions about that? Okay, thank you, Creston and Diane, for adding to that conversation. And oh shoot, now it's my turn. So I'll give everybody a quick update about the equestrian team. We had a meeting last week. We invited the parents of Eatonville students, our attorney, and also had the state chair and co-chair of WASET, which is the Washington High School Equestrian Teams organization that our kids have ridden under. And they are very excited to work with us to find a solution. We identified really the key hang up for us as a district is that we have a school district employee as an advisor who's paid a stipend by the district, and that overrides all the insurances that WASET has in place and makes us squarely on the hook for liability. So what we need, Brandon Garrison, who's a state chair of WASET, he gave me, I would guess, all of the documents WASET has about these things and forwarded them on to Bill Coates, asked him to go through them. And when he gets back to us with an opinion on these things, we're going to schedule another meeting between the district and WASET and Bill and see what we can arrive at. But, I think the tone of the meeting was good. The parents, they voiced their concerns, but then they seem to recognize that this is a problem we're willing to work on. So then they've already taken steps that they think might help, like making the team a standalone 501c3, which it used to be at one point in time. So I'm optimistic that we have a workable solution out there somewhere. Of course, an attorney is, always possibly going to rain on your parade when they weigh in. But right now, I'm feeling good about a real chance to make this happen. So we as a board, I'd like you guys to start thinking about what we're willing to accept. I mean, if there's a way that we can, and sorry, I forgot a key point. The real crux of this thing is that a high school has to sign a letter of affiliation with WASET. and that's all that's required. So we need to decide as a group if we're willing to accept some amount of risk by doing that, or do we want to go no risk? Our team is also a big co-op team. We have, I believe, 26 kids on the team, but only 8 of those are Eatonville students. So, I'm more inclined to take a reasonable amount of risk for our Eatonville kids, but not necessarily for 22 others from out of district. So, there's things for us to think about in that regard. So until we hear back from Bill on his legal opinion, I think that's all the news. Paulette, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
No, I totally agree with you. I think people left feeling like we were trying to find a way for it to work. I think they felt that there was some promise there, and I really appreciated the board members from Wausett in being involved in bringing their documents and handing them over so that we could have Bill Coates look at them and make sure that of where we're at. But I agree with you. It was a surprise to me that we were the only team that had a school advisor, and and that does put us into a bad situation. So.
Yeah, and Brandon, the state chair, he drove from Bellingham to sit in that meeting with us. He is that devoted to making this work. So, Creston.
Yeah, I just wanted to really thank the board for always thinking about children first. I know it was a difficult meeting, and I really appreciated all of the parents, if any of them are listening today. They were honest, and putting children first means that grown-ups might have to do something different, right? And so I believe that the solution is that we're going to have to do things differently. It's not going to be just the status quo of what we have done in the past. And in order for those children to be able to do that for Eatonville, they're going to have to be as disassociated from the school district for liability's sake. But I appreciate Paulette and Jeff and all of the Wausett people coming. I believe that there is a solution, but it's going to be, I think the grown-ups, we're going to have to really think about, the fact that it is for children. So, and do what is best for the kids. And that means that, we're going to have some hard discussions. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. There's probably an answer out there, but it's still going to take a little wrangling to hammer that out. So, okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? Okay, then let's move on to unfinished business. And we are going to consider approval of the capital facilities plan. So I would accept a motion to consider the capital facilities plan as presented tonight.
So moved.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion about the facility plan? Okay, then all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, all opposed, say no. Okay, plan is approved, and there's no new business, so we'll go right into Creston's comments.
All right. Well, I want to thank all of the staff that stayed on and that attended today. It's so much better being in person, I know, but I appreciate that. I cannot underscore the fact that Heidi and John Fisher have done really yeoman's work. In addition to all the things that they do, John has taken over the whole COVID piece and met with emergency management. Heidi, as our LPN for the whole district, has navigated through and, meeting with multiple health providers. I just want to thank both of them publicly. They really have been heroes through this. We would not have been navigating a face-to-face without their help. So, and then John, with the capital facilities plan, you did exactly what we had asked. we could not even go forward with looking at really the future. And I want to thank him for that and the attorney that went through that. I wanted to thank Jana for the always being positive and always looking at the silver lining. And she's just been a champion for kids. And there are kids that are coming in because they really, especially around connectivity. Just a few things. I've been involved with a governor's group that really had some health department people last week, and that has kind of opened a door for a potential capability for us to partner with our local health department and our health providers. I don't want to say much more than that because it's kind of in the works, but I believe that things are going pretty fast. And so I will be filling out information for the board as soon as I get something that's a little bit more official. It will probably be a partnership both with Eatonville, and we're looking at partnering with potentially a couple other districts. Because one of the things that we're finding, and one of the comments that I had made, is that we're finding that when children are screened out for, so I'll give a good example that Diane gives, and I use this example and I did use this with the governor's group. I said, there was a second grader that was screened out due to fatigue. And so he was sent down to the office. And so they asked him, so do you have fatigue? Yes, I have fatigue. And so they said, so do you know what fatigue is? He said, I have no idea, right? So when you go down the checklist, if you have a stomach ache or a headache, yes, I have a stomach ache, and yes, I have a headache, right? And so I know that they've gotten a little bit more exact with that, but when you're asking a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or even a 9-year-old, of course, if you ask me right now if I have a stomach ache, I think I have a stomach ache. So that was what I expressed with the group, is as we're navigating through this, if children are screened out, they're out for 10 days. And like Heidi said, we're not having people bring them to the doctor, get tested, and then come back. And so in order to have schools remain open, other states have had more robust testing programs, certainly on a volunteer basis. So that really has been the crux of the conversation. We've had several of them with our local health department. Actually, we had a meeting yesterday and we had a meeting today. So more to come on that. Met with the Puget Sound ESD superintendents, and we're really realizing that children that are remote really are having really social emotional issues. Low grade depression, suicide ideology. I know that our counselors are working really hard, but when we look at the long game for this, and other districts have said, we're not going to open until February, and I'm a high school senior and I'm an athlete, all those things come into play. So I want to thank the middle school and high school administrators. I know that I sent you a letter yesterday that was also sent to Dr. Chen and the health department. That's really exact. It's saying these are kids in the middle school that are really struggling. These are numbers. These are kids in the high school that are really struggling. And then at the same time, late last week, we had the governor pass the ability for students to be face-to-face in athletics. And I had seen Gavin on as well. So I know that there is certainly a tension right now with numbers increasing, COVID numbers increasing, and the potentiality that we will be told to close our elementary. And I know that the letter that came out to Dr. Chen seems counterintuitive. I've asked that we could just freeze at this time, at least for the next 2 weeks, to navigate, to see what the trending is. However, I don't know if that will be granted. And to this date, to this time, I have not, no one has gotten back with me. So what we have asked and what our plan is that we have a plan to have GRIT students come back. That will be a group of 10 every day, one with 2 teachers, so it's 10, so groups of 5 at the Grits Farm outside and with masks. We have also asked to comply with the sports. That would be, I believe, John, if you're still on, it's six students. I don't know why they changed from 5 to 6, but and I know that Gavin is on, so if you have specific questions, you might want to ask about the sports. But the date that we had requested is the 26th, is my understanding. And also to be able to bring in some of our secondary students that are failing multiple classes and really having other issues. So I just wanted to make you be aware of that. So if you did have any questions this evening, I don't know if Gavin is still on, but I know that he has been really, really in depth and really a champion. And I know that John and he have been working very closely. And I believe last night they had a meeting with the coaches. So if you wanted an update on that. The only last thing that I wanted to tell you is that our teachers really are champions. We had a meeting today and with the elementary teachers, and they are considering requesting of their members. They're concerned about seeing their children, and they're concerned that the conferences are coming up in November. And their conversation with me today was, could we change the conference to a later time so that we can see kids face to face and not waste, that conference time? So they have initiated and will initiate a survey that will go out to their own members, and that we're really partnering with that. But I just want to highlight that and say, our children have amazing instructors, amazing teachers at probably the worst time that our nation or our world has seen in recent history. And I just want to thank them, because this work is hard. No one's done it before. We didn't train for it. We didn't get certificates in college to say, I can do remote and then I can change to a hybrid. All of this work is hard, and it would be much easier to just throw in the towel and say, we're going to do as little as possible. And so I just want to highlight that and just thank them from the bottom of my heart, because they're doing what they need to do for kids in a really hard time. So I just want to thank the board for being supportive. I'm getting a little teary just because this has been hard, and there's no easy answer. I keep waiting for that day that, oh, well, that's an easy answer. There are none. Every single time we turn, there's another hard thing to figure out. So I just wanted to end on that and say thank you. And I'm just so grateful that I live in this community, and that my granddaughter someday will grow up in this community, I hope. And it's really an honor, because really it's the people that make this work. It's not all of the rules and all of that. So with that, I'm done. Thanks.
Hey, Jeff, could I ask for an update from Mr. Kalis on the athletics and what that's going to look like moving forward?
You can ask for whatever you like, Rhonda. Yeah. Did you hear that, Gavin? Can you give us just a brief update on athletics? What's coming up?
Yeah. So the WIA just released new guidelines, like Superintendent Barr alluded to, in conjunction with the governor's office and the state health department. And so they've basically opened up an extension of what normally goes on in the summer, with coaches being able to work and coach specifically with their athletes. Normally this would be a dead time, but they've opened it up until December 19. And then sports are supposed to officially begin at the high school level December 28. That would begin with boys and girls basketball and wrestling. Although wrestling, the Coaches Association has requested to the state to move their season to season 4, which would be in a line with the spring sports. They got rid of the phases as the criteria that kind of drives the guidelines and what each individual sport can do. And so now the metrics are the 14-day count, just like we go off of for schools. And they've classified all the sports into 3 categories: high risk, moderate risk, and low risk. And so, for example, swim, cross country, tennis, track, they could all, even with a count above our Pierce County count above 75 per 100,000 in the 14-day count, they don't have to work in pods of 6. They can actually hold practices. The coaches 100% of the time under the new guidelines have face coverings on. The athletes do as well, whether they're inside or outside. The only exception is if they're physically exerting themselves, they don't have to wear the face covering, but as soon as they're done, they put it back up. And so similar to what we did in the summer with coaches working with pods of 5, in most sports, I would anticipate if we were granted the opportunity to do so, they'd start working with pods of 6. John came last night. Sheila Ridgway was there with all the coaches. We had an hour-and-a-half meeting, and I could say that the heart of the group, all the coaches that showed up, is they really understand that the role that they have now is very different than a lot of times when coaches got into coaching, and they recognize like the mental health challenges as we're going on 8 months of this for the kids, and they really have a heart. Even just to give you an example, tennis coaches, with the weather turning difficult, each coach wants to work with their kids, and if it looks like just doing leadership training because the weather is really bad, really looking for opportunities to connect with kids and try to meet any kind of mental health needs that we can through athletics. And so that's the real driving force. It's not like anybody's thinking if we can, get an advantage on the competition or put programs in a better position to win games when sports resume. The heart of the coaches right now, I can say, is to really connect with kids and understand this is a different time and a different need that is there before our kids. And so, that's what's going on. We've created a schedule where the different sports, when they have the opportunity to start working with athletes, would spend 2 days a week, up to 2 days a week for each sport with the kids. And the schedule would be such that the kids would never have to pick between sports that they do. It's 100% optional for the kids. It's optional for the coaches if they want to participate and hold sessions with the athletes. But it was unanimous amongst all the coaches that that's something that they all definitely want to do because they recognize the needs that are there right now with the kids.
Okay, thank you, Gavin. Appreciate that. Rhonda, anything else you'd like to hear or ask? We'll call that a no. Okay, so moving into board comments. There's Angelina. So Angelina and Kalina, anything you'd like to update us on? Okay.
Lena, do you want to go first?
There you go.
Oh, well, I was hoping, or I wasn't hoping, but I didn't know if you should go because you are senior school board rep.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. So I guess it's just a little additive to it. So recently I took a survey on Instagram to my peers and other students about how they were doing in school. So at first I asked how what their like grades were, or like how they were doing like in like grade wise, like educationally. And then the second question I asked was, how is remote learning affecting their mental health? So for the first question, it was kind of there was varied responses. Some students said that they were doing better and that their grades have gone up. A lot of students also said that their grades have not been doing that well, that they're barely passing, or that there's just a lot of work and it's hard for them to find motivation to do these assignments. Some students said that it felt like teachers were taking time instead of like replacing the time that they could be spending with the students in person. They're like putting that into assignments, like as if like making more assignments would replace the time they had been with the students in person. And they were feeling that way, and that it's just been a lot of workload for them. And then going on to the next question about how the remote learning has been affecting their mental health. So it was it was like a unanimous thing. It was not going very well, even with the students who have been getting good grades, who have like done better in school. It's like they're putting so much effort into doing better in school that their mental health is suffering. That like they're spending all their time doing schoolwork, that they don't have time for like self-care or stuff like that. And I have like specific like responses, and it says like, it's the stress of time management that has put a significant toll on it, which I think it's a hard transition for students to go from in school learning where they could do some assignments in class and lunch to go home and then have to do this on their own. And that's something that students need to overcome as well. But it's also like, in general, I think it's hard for like with depression and a lot of like issues at home, even like with parents, like parents aren't used to having students at home all the time. And so there could be conflicts within that is causing them to have issues with doing their schoolwork. But that's just what I've received from, and also, sorry, this isn't just an Eatonville thing. The majority of the responses I got were from Eatonville students, but I know I was previously from Bethel High School, and I know all kids have been replying, and they said that they are also struggling. So it's not just like an Eatonville thing. So.
Can I make a comment, Kalina? I just want to thank you so much for that, because, you know, we know that that's going to be, and that's the struggle that we have, especially with high school students. Like I can see it in your eyes. This is really hard. It's really, really hard. And so then I just need to push back as a superintendent and say, when we talk about having sports and kids to be able to come in, it is counterintuitive to say we're going to stay remote and we're going to be open for sports. And yet what Gavin just talked about, and the importance of the social, emotional, the mental part, we've got to help you. Like it is our responsibility as the grown-ups in this system to make sure that we're listening. So I want to thank you for that. And if you would share, I certainly don't want data that's, you know, specific, but if you would share any information with me, I would love to help with that. And I know that your principal would too. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Kalina. That was that's actually really, really great to get that kind of poll by a student from students. That is exactly why we're so happy to have the two of you on the board. And you know, not that much of a surprise, really. I mean, school is such a structured and managed environment. You know, from the time you get there till the time you leave, and yeah, doing this at home is just utter chaos. So thank you for that. Angelina, anything to add?
Not much. I think I'm just gonna kind of piggyback off of Kalina. So I kind of did like a little thing in my skill center class with my other students, and we like went into our Zoom breakout sessions, and we kind of just talked about like the issues we were facing, because there's like 26 different districts, not necessarily in the class, but inside the whole skill center itself. And so we talked about solutions as well. And I think like maybe if me and Kalina can talk about what worked for us and then also talk to other students and what worked for them, maybe we can come up with like things to help other students and send that out to them. I think that also might be pretty helpful and try to counteract what's going on while remote learning. Just an idea.
Yeah, and can I actually add to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so like that's a great point, Angelina. Like well, I was thinking sometimes like during like transition from like the school to online learning, a lot of students who have been taking like higher like classes or like harder classes, and they're used to that, and they're used to having that in person and getting help if they need to from their teachers. Like it's easier that way. And then when we switch to online learning, I feel like a lot of students expect themselves to do better than what they were doing before, or just as good, and to still be the same level that they were previously. But I think that because of the circumstances, it's okay to learn that you can like take a step back, you know, and realize that you don't have to always get that A. You don't always have to ace every single test, or you don't have to take that AP class, that extra AP class, or be in this other position just because you think you have like more time, or because you were doing it before, because everything is different now and it's hard. So I think letting like students know that it's okay to not be perfect in this, I think that would like help a lot.
I agree. I think that's a great message. Thank you, girls. Okay, any board comments out there? Paulette, we'll start with you. What would you like to say?
No, that's fine. I just wanted to echo Creston's thank you to Heidi and John and the hard work that they are doing and the excellent way in which they're doing it, and how they're not only doing the work that they've been called on to do, but they're doing it in such a manner that it's raising up people to come alongside and to support. And I'm excited that we have people like that in our district, all across our district. You know, all of our staff, they're just amazing. And I enjoy sharing with people from other districts about them. And Kalina and Angelina, you are amazing young ladies, and you're doing amazing work with reaching out to students, and you're showing them, you know, that compassion that we all need to show. You're showing them that they count, that we, you know, that someone cares about them, and we need to be sure that we let all students know how important they are and how valued they are. And that's what this district is about. We're about kids, and we want to do everything we can to make sure they get their needs met in just incredible ways. And I'm grateful to be able to be a part of what we're doing in this this time, and to be able to do the hard work that we need to do to make a difference. You know, that's what's gonna matter later on, is what we did to make a difference in someone individual's life, or to make a difference in a group, or whatever it is in our own lives, that we made a difference. And I'm very proud of both you young ladies and of all of our staff for what they're doing, and will continue to do. And we will never forget this time. It's a valuable time, even as hard as it is. And it's hard. It's hard not only for students. I mean, it's hard for us adults too, for me in business, trying to keep business going and trying to communicate with people at all levels that have to be communicated with, and not getting answers back. Or I had a particularly interesting phone call where I called someone from a government entity and asked them for something. And they said, well, they were working from home. And I said, well, I understand that and I appreciate that, but can you do this for me? And she said, well, I don't have access to that. And I'll have to be honest with you. My first reaction was, then you're not working. If you don't have access, why are you working from home? But they're struggling too. And I've really realized that we have to really be aware that everybody has their struggles every day, and that our kids are our most important part. They're our future. And I just want to say thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Paulette. Rhonda, you have any comments you'd like to make from the road?
I just want to comment that I am so honored to be working with so many passionate people. We have amazing, passionate student representatives. Absolutely love the work you're doing. Thank you, ladies, for taking the initiative to apply and become a part of our board, and then the individual initiative to really reach out to students. And I'm so grateful and I admire your work so much. Passionate parents who are advocating for their children, whether it's diversity, equity, inclusion, or the equestrian team, or our athletes, or special needs students. I'm so grateful for the passion that parents bring to their families. I'm grateful for the passion of our administrators and all of our staff and the hard work that our teachers are doing. I know that they're hard during the work. And so just thank you to everyone, and so honored to be a part of that.
All right. Thank you, Rhonda. I think I got everything you said there. Matt, anything to add?
Yeah, just wow, what a year. It's been pretty amazing to watch the students, the staff, the administrators, the teachers, coaches, everybody react to not only, having to leave in person and go to remote models, but refine the remote models, go to a hybrid, and, like we just heard from the students, we always have some room to improve. We've got some areas we can always do better in, but the problem solving that's happened, the amount of hours and dedication and devotion put in by everybody involved has been quite impressive, and I'm just glad to be a part of the team. So thank you all.
Outstanding. Yeah, and the only thing I'd really like to add is in person's just critical. I mean, we're in distance right now because that's where we've come from, but we're moving forward. It's time to move this whole plan in a different direction. Remote is not going to work for everybody forever. And we were the first ones to say something, but not the only ones. Dr. Jarvis in Peninsula has also now written a letter to Dr. Chen suggesting the next iteration of hybrid 2.0. And like I said earlier, I've been sitting in some of my kids' classes, and there's a lot of kids that are really turning into hot messes out there, and we really need to get them back in school. And sorry, I corrected the audience here. Just said not a lot of kids are hot messes, but there's definitely several. Let's just leave it at that. So thank you from the peanut gallery.
So direct, because it's good that you have a handler, right?
Yeah. I could have used one years ago. So it's an open meeting. Everybody come on in. Yeah, but no, we need to get kids in school. We need to get them back. We're going into athletics, and just because the whole county is seeing a rise in cases again, we need to start breaking this down into smaller areas and a little more strategic, or I should say tactical reaction to our numbers. So we're working on it, and that's where we're going to go. So does anybody else have anything else to add real quick? Okay, then let's wrap this up, and we'll adjourn the meeting at 20:07. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.